Greetings and welcome to today's how-to video where we're going to learn more about how to run this Bond Arms gun. The Bond Arms double barrel pistol is a modern interpretation of the Remington Model 95 Derringer, which was launched back in the late 1800s. Now, when Bond Arms launched their pistol in 1995, they made significant improvements to the design. You've got a much stronger frame, they're infinitely more reliable, an all stainless steel construction, and the inclusion of two safety features absent on the Model 95, including this crossbolt safety, and you've got this rebounding hammer which locks back away from the firing pins, and that acts as a type of drop safety. Now you see there's lots of different models to choose from, different grip sizes and types, matte finish, polished finish, and so forth. But all of the pistols in this category are based on two frame sizes. The original standard frame was designed to handle cartridges up to 45 caliber in size. So you've got the 45 Colt, 410 bore shotgun shells, 10mm auto, and so forth. More recently, the company has added the Stinger frame, which is about half the thickness of the standard frame, and that makes the gun slimmer, lighter, a little easier to carry, but it does limit your caliber options. The largest caliber I say is about 38 caliber, so 38 special, 9mm, and so forth. Now, regardless of which frame size you get, whether it's a standard frame or the Stinger frame, the features and the controls are the same. So if you learn how to run one of these guns, you basically know how to run them all. So right here you've got your release lever. You press down. That allows the barrels to swing up and provides access to the cartridges inside. Now this barrel has an extractor, and this is for revolver cartridges or rimmed cartridges like the 410 bore shotgun shell. The extractor lifts the spent cartridge case up just enough that you can grab it and pull it out. Now you notice that some of the barrels don't have this extractor, like this gun right here. That's because these barrels are chambered for semi-auto pistol cartridges like the 9mm or 45 ACP. Now there's no rim for an extractor to grab onto, so they omit the extractor and instead leave this notch that you can use a fingernail or the rim of a spent cartridge case to grab onto those cartridge cases and pull them out. Now, we've already verified this is unloaded, so let's show you how it fires. You load in your 2 rounds, close your barrel, make sure that locks nice and tight like it just did, cock the hammer, and pull the trigger. Now, inside the hammer here, there is a lever that alternates between the upper firing pin and the lower firing pin each time that it is cocked. And now a few tips on running the Bond Arms pistol. Now for this, I'm going to be using a frame that has the barrel removed, just because it makes it a little easier to see the operations on camera. Tip number 1 is an answer to the burning question: can you conduct dry fire practice with the Bond Arms pistol? The answer is yes, you can. Folks are encouraged to install snap caps into the barrel, and then you can practice away. What's important to remember though is to have the crossbolt safety in the fire position. If you have the hammer fall repeatedly against the safety, you can cause damage to the pistol. Tip number 2, don't ride the hammer. Now let me show you what I mean by that. When the hammer's cocked, it sits really low and you don't have a whole lot of grip to work with anyway. So it's very easy if you're new to this platform to have the web of your thumb press up against the hammer, and pressure against the hammer creates tension in the action and makes the trigger feel exceptionally heavy. So if the trigger weighs a ton, try adjusting your grip so that you're not pressing on the hammer, and the trigger will feel much better. Tip number 3, you can set which firing pin is going to fire first. Now watch this. You cock the hammer back. Now before you do this exercise, make sure the barrel is open and there's no ammunition in the gun, or if you have it partially disassembled like this is a good time to set your pins. Now I'm going to release the hammer and press it all the way forward against the frame. Now if you don't have your glasses on, you may not see that the lower firing pin is now pressing out from the frame. If you can't see it, you can definitely feel it. All right, so the lower pin has just been fired. Now watch this. If you release the hammer and cock it again, that lever is going to alternate and it's going to go up, and now your top pin has fired. So the next time the hammer is cocked, it's going to fire the bottom barrel first. Now personally, I like shooting the bottom barrel first because the recoil of the pistol is more straight back. Other folks, they like to have the top barrel fire first because the bore is more in line with the sight system. Whatever you want, it's up to you. Either way is just fine. But going forward, each time I fire 2 shots, it's going to go lower, upper, lower, and upper. But if I decide to change that and just follow this same procedure that I just demonstrated. Last but not least, let's talk about managing this trigger. Now, the trigger on the Bon Doms Derringer moves differently than just about every other handgun trigger that I've worked with. Let me show you what I mean. Now, this is a Canic pistol. No ammo in the chamber, no magazine in the grip. There we go. Now, most striker fired guns, when you pull the trigger, it's pretty much a front of the trigger guard, back to the grip motion. Just like that. Just a nice straight back motion, like so. And you get that same type of motion with a 1911. Again, not loaded, no magazine. As you watch the trigger move, it wants to pull straight back. Let's do it again. Just like that. A nice straight back motion. And even though double action revolvers like this Ruger LCR, let's verify, yes, that is completely unloaded. Even though the triggers have a pretty different feel, the motion is still, for the most part, sort of a straight back pull, just like that. Now, let's go back to the Bond Arms frame, and here's what you notice. I'm just going to manipulate the trigger with my thumb so it's a little easier to see here. See that motion? It's more of a downward motion than it is a backwards motion. So what folks can do if they're not familiar with this gun is you get your finger on there and you try to fire it pretty much like every other handgun on the market, right? Which is to apply pressure at the top and center of the trigger. Now watch this. I'm going to do that. Oh man, that trigger weighs a ton. Let's cock it again. Again, I'm trying to do that straight back. Boy, that's heavy. Now, what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to apply pressure differently. I'm going to imagine that I'm using the bottom edge of the trigger finger to roll the tip of the trigger downwards towards the ground. And then, see, nice and light. The Bond Arms triggers are around 4 pounds, and as you can see, it's a pretty short single trigger stroke, and it's a single action trigger. So when you get that downward roll mastered, like that, roll it down, then you get a much more enjoyable shooting experience. Thanks again for joining me today. I hope this information is useful to those of you who have recently acquired a Bond Arms pistol, or if you're thinking about buying one. So, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.